The transport shuttle carrying Commander Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Grant approached the massive orbital station slowly. Jake gripped the armrest tighter than he wanted to admit. This was humanity's first chance to join the Galactic Council, and everything had to go perfectly. Nervous? Lisa asked, not looking up from her datapad. Just focused, Jake replied, though his white knuckles told a different story. The station was enormous, easily 50 times larger than anything humans had ever built. It hung in orbit above Kepler Prime like a small moon made of crystal and metal. Thousands of ships from dozens of alien species moved around it in perfect coordination. Jake had studied the Council for years, but seeing it in person made him feel very small. Their shuttle docked with a soft thump. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped into a corridor filled with beings that shouldn't exist. A creature made of floating rocks drifted past them. Something that looked like living water flowed along the wall. Jake forced himself not to stare. Ambassador Carl Hayes met them at the entrance to the council chamber. The older man looked tired, and his diplomatic smile seemed strained. "Remember," Carl said quietly, "be respectful. Don't argue. Just present what we prepared and hope for the best." "We've got good technology to show them," Lisa said confidently. "Our new fusion drives are efficient. Our weapons are precise. Our shields can take a beating." Carl's expression suggested he didn't share her optimism, but he said nothing. The massive doors to the council chamber opened. The room was circular and vast. 12 alien species sat in elevated positions around the chamber, looking down at the presentation floor in the center. Jake felt like a student called before a panel of professors, except these professors could destroy Earth with a single command to their fleets. Chairman Vexthor sat highest. He was a Valorian, a being that looked like he was carved from purple crystal. Light moved through his body in strange patterns. When he spoke, his voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "Humans of Earth," Vexthor said, "you petition for membership in our council. Show us why we should accept your species." Jake walked to the center of the floor. A holographic projector activated, showing images of Earth's finest achievements. He began his speech, the one he had practiced 1,000 times. "Honored council members, humanity has developed rapidly over the past 2 centuries. We have achieved fusion power, quantum computing, and faster-than-light travel. We have explored our solar system and established colonies on 3 planets. We believe we can contribute to the galactic community." A being that looked like a massive insect clicked its mandibles. This was a Krell representative. "Fusion power? We mastered that technology 40,000 years ago. It is primitive." Lisa stepped forward, activating her own presentation. "Our fusion drives are more efficient than the standard designs. We achieve 92% energy conversion using a magnetic containment system that—" Laughter interrupted her. Not just from one alien, but from several. The sound was strange and unsettling. The Valorians made a chiming noise like breaking glass. The Krell clicked in rapid bursts. Even the usually polite Saltians, who looked almost human except for their silver skin, seemed amused. "Child," a Valorian scientist said, his voice dripping with condescension. "We manipulate quantum states at the molecular level. We can reshape matter with thought. Your magnetic bottles are like being proud of rubbing sticks together for fire." Jake felt heat rising in his face, but he pressed on. "Our weapon systems—" "Kinetic projectiles," the Krell representative interrupted. "You accelerate metal to high speeds and throw it at your enemies. This is barely more advanced than the clubs your ancestors used. Our energy weapons can atomize a ship in seconds. Our defensive shields use layered frequency modulation." Lisa tried again. "The system adapts to incoming fire by—" Another wave of laughter. This time it was worse because Jake could see pity mixed with the amusement. They weren't just mocking humanity. They felt sorry for them. Chairman Vexthor raised one crystalline hand and the chamber fell silent. "Humans, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but you must understand the position you put us in. The Galactic Council is not a charity organization. Each species must contribute something valuable to our collective. Your technology is not merely behind ours. It is so far behind that we struggle to find any practical application for it." Carl stepped forward quickly. "Chairman, if I may. Humanity's strength isn't just our technology. It's our adaptability, our creativity, our ability to solve problems in unconventional ways. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars. We've rebuilt civilizations from ashes multiple times. That resilience, that innovative spirit, surely has value." The Saltian representative spoke for the first time. Her voice was gentle, which somehow made her words cut deeper. Ambassador Hayes, we do not doubt your species' survival instincts, but understand that every species in this council has survived similar challenges. The difference is that we developed advanced technology in the process. You have survived, yes, but you remain primitive. Perhaps in another 1,000 years you will be ready. But not today. The vote was quick. 12 species, 12 votes against humanity's membership. It was unanimous. Jake stood frozen on the presentation floor as the council members began leaving. One by one, the elevated seats emptied. The Valorians vanished in flashes of light. The Krell skittered away on their multiple legs. The Saltians walked out with graceful steps. Within minutes, Jake, Lisa, and Carl stood alone in the enormous chamber. Well, Carl said finally, that went about as badly as it could have. The journey back to their ship was silent. Jake couldn't bring himself to speak. Years of preparation, months of travel, all for nothing. Earth's first contact with galactic civilization had ended in humiliation. Once aboard the Defiant, their small transport vessel, Lisa finally broke the silence. They're wrong, you know. Jake looked at her. About what? They're right that our technology is primitive compared to theirs. They're wrong about adaptability not mattering, Lisa said, pulling up files on her computer. They're wrong that we have nothing to contribute. And they're especially wrong to dismiss us so completely. Lisa, they can manipulate quantum states with their minds. They have weapons that turn matter into energy. What exactly are we supposed to do against that? Lisa's eyes gleamed with something Jake recognized. It was the look she got when she had an idea, usually a dangerous one. They've been at the top for so long that they've forgotten how to think like underdogs, she said. They have better technology, yes, but better technology has weaknesses. Every system has vulnerabilities. Every pattern has flaws. They've spent millennia perfecting their methods, making everything more efficient, more powerful, more orderly. And, Jake asked, and nobody's taught them that sometimes the best solution isn't the most powerful one. It's the most unexpected one. Lisa pulled up a file marked with heavy encryption. I've been working on something. A theoretical project. I never mentioned it in our presentation because it's too radical, too unproven. But maybe that's exactly what we need. Carl joined them, looking older and more tired than before. What kind of project? The kind that works because it doesn't make sense, Lisa said. The kind that succeeds because nobody would think to defend against it. The kind that wins because the enemy is too busy laughing to see the punch coming. Jake felt something stir in his chest. It wasn't quite hope, not yet, but it was close. Tell me more, he said. Lisa smiled and began explaining her idea. As she spoke, Jake realized something important. The Galactic Council had made a critical mistake today. They had dismissed humanity completely, written them off as irrelevant primitives who would never amount to anything important. And dismissing your opponent completely was the first step to underestimating them. Outside the viewport, stars streaked past as the Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying 3 humans and 1 dangerous idea back toward Earth. The galaxy had laughed at humanity today. Soon, Jake promised himself they would stop laughing. The elevator descended for 3 full minutes before the doors opened. Jake Morrison stepped out into a facility that officially didn't exist. The complex stretched deep under the Mojave Desert, carved from solid rock and shielded by enough interference to hide it from any scan. Admiral Patrick Stone waited in the operations center, a massive room filled with screens and equipment. The Admiral was a big man with gray hair and the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Dr. Grant says she can build something that will change everything, Patrick said. I'm giving her 6 months and whatever resources she needs. Your job, Commander, is to make sure she succeeds. Questions? Just one, sir, Jake replied. What exactly is she building? Patrick almost smiled. Something the aliens will never see coming. She'll explain the details. I barely understand half of it myself. He handed Jake a security badge with the highest clearance level. Welcome to Project Catalyst. Lisa had already assembled her team in the main laboratory. The space was enormous, filled with equipment that looked like it belonged in 3 different centuries at once. Old-fashioned circuit boards sat next to quantum computers. Mechanical tools were scattered among holographic displays. Captain Amy Torres stood near a fighter jet simulator. She was a pilot with 15 years of combat experience and a reputation for thinking fast under pressure. Her flight suit had scorch marks from a recent training accident that she had apparently walked away from. Dr. Greg Palmer hunched over a computer terminal, lines of mathematical equations scrolling past faster than anyone should be able to read. He was young for a quantum physicist, barely 30, with messy hair and glasses he forgot to clean. Jake had read his file. Greg had published papers that other scientists called either brilliant or insane, sometimes both. Ryan Beck was examining a prototype weapon mounted on a test stand. The weapons engineer looked more like a mechanic than a scientist, with oil stains on his jacket and calloused hands. But his designs had revolutionized Earth's defense systems 3 times in the past decade. "Team," Lisa announced. "This is Commander Jake Morrison. He'll be coordinating our efforts and handling the military applications. Jake, meet the people who are going to prove the galaxy wrong." "No pressure," Amy said with a grin. Lisa activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a 3-dimensional map of known alien technology, compiled from decades of observation and the recent Council demonstration. "Here's what we know," Lisa began. "Every major species in the Galactic Council has technology built on the same basic principles: quantum manipulation, energy-matter conversion, unified field theory. They've been developing along these lines for thousands of years, making everything more efficient, more powerful, more controlled." "Orderly," Greg added, not looking up from his computer. "Everything they do follows mathematical patterns. Perfect, predictable, logical patterns." "Right," Lisa continued, "and that's their weakness. They've optimized everything so much that their technology has become predictable. Their shield frequencies cycle in measurable patterns. Their weapons follow calculated trajectories. Their ships move in coordinated formations based on tactical algorithms." Ryan looked up from the weapon prototype. "So we hit them where they're not expecting it." "Exactly," Lisa said. "But we can't beat them with conventional weapons. Their shields are too strong. Their ships are too fast. We need something completely different." She changed the holographic display. Now it showed what looked like a ship engine but wrong somehow. The design had irregular curves where engines should have smooth lines. Components seemed randomly placed instead of optimized. "This is the phantom drive," Lisa explained. "It doesn't make a ship go faster. It makes the ship go differently." Jake studied the design, trying to understand it. "I don't follow." Greg finally looked up, his eyes bright with excitement. "Conventional faster-than-light travel moves through space in a linear path. You calculate your trajectory, apply power, and jump from point A to point B. It's clean, efficient, and completely predictable. The phantom drive doesn't do that. Instead," Lisa continued, "it uses controlled chaos theory to create quantum uncertainty in the ship's position. The ship exists in multiple probable locations simultaneously, then collapses into whichever position we choose. To enemy sensors, we're everywhere and nowhere. To targeting computers, we're impossible to lock onto." "That shouldn't work," Jake said. "According to conventional physics, you're right," Greg agreed. "But conventional physics assumes orderly systems. Chaos mathematics works differently. The aliens never developed chaos theory because their civilizations never needed it. They evolved toward order, toward predictability. We evolved through disorder, through adaptation to unpredictable environments." Amy walked over to examine the drive design. "Can you weaponize it?" "Already working on it," Ryan said, gesturing to the prototype weapon. "This is the Cascade Cannon. It doesn't fire energy or projectiles. It fires mathematical contradictions." "Come again?" Jake asked. Ryan's face lit up the way it always did when he talked about weapons. "Alien shields work by creating energy barriers tuned to specific frequencies. They're incredibly sophisticated, constantly adapting to incoming fire, but that sophistication requires complex calculations, and calculations require assumptions about how reality works. The Cascade Cannon introduces chaos into those calculations," Lisa explained. "It fires a burst of quantum uncertainty that makes the shield's mathematical models contradict themselves. The shield doesn't get overwhelmed. It gets confused. The more advanced the shield, the more vulnerable it becomes because advanced shields rely on more complex mathematics." Jake walked slowly around the holographic display, his mind racing. "This is insane." "This is necessary," Lisa corrected. "We can't beat them at their own game. We have to change the game entirely." Over the next 3 months, the team worked around the clock. Greg refined the chaos mathematics, creating equations that hurt to look at. Amy developed tactical protocols based on unpredictability. Studying every unconventional military victory in human history, Ryan built prototype after prototype, each one more devastating than the last. Jake coordinated everything, translating scientific theory into military application. He ran simulations, planned strategies, and slowly began to understand the brilliant madness of Lisa's plan. The Phantom Drive worked by making the ship's position uncertain. But uncertainty was only useful if you could control it. Amy developed a piloting system that required human intuition, not computer precision. The pilot had to feel where the ship should be, not calculate it. Computers are too logical, Amy explained during a test flight. They want predictable outcomes. This system requires embracing chaos, trusting instinct over calculation. That's something humans are good at and aliens apparently aren't. The first successful test came on a Tuesday morning. A prototype ship equipped with the Phantom Drive simply vanished from all sensors. It reappeared 3 kilometers away, then vanished again. Tracking systems showed it in 6 different locations simultaneously. It works, Greg whispered, staring at the data. It actually works, but success brought new problems. The Phantom Drive was one thing. Weaponizing it was another. The Cascade Cannon test kept failing. The mathematical contradictions worked in theory, but collapsed in practice. Ryan spent weeks troubleshooting before he realized the problem. "We're trying to make it too controlled," he said. "Chaos can't be perfectly controlled. We need to embrace the randomness." He rebuilt the weapon from scratch, incorporating elements of true random number generation and quantum fluctuation. The result was a weapon that worked differently every time it fired, impossible to predict or defend against. Then came news from the border colonies. Krell scouting ships had been spotted near human territory. Admiral Patrick Stone called an emergency meeting. "Intelligence suggests the Krell are planning something," Patrick said, his face grim on the video screen. "They see our rejection by the Council as confirmation that we're weak. They're testing our defenses." "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Unknown. Could be months. Could be weeks." Lisa looked at her team. 3 months of work had produced 1 functional prototype and a handful of weapons. They needed dozens of ships, hundreds of weapons. They needed time they didn't have. "We accelerate production," she decided. "We cut testing short and start building the fleet. It's risky, but we don't have a choice." "If the technology fails in actual combat," Greg began. "Then we're no worse off than we were before," Amy interrupted. "At least this way we have a chance." The facility transformed into a production line. More scientists arrived. More pilots. More engineers. Word spread through Earth's military about the secret project, and volunteers lined up faster than they could be processed. Jake watched the first squadron of Phantom-equipped fighters take shape in the hangar bay. They looked wrong, just like the drive design. Asymmetric, irregular, unpredictable. They looked perfect. Lisa found him there late one night, both of them too wired to sleep. They stood in silence watching technicians work on the ships. "Do you think it'll work?" Jake asked finally. "Honestly, I have no idea. The mathematics are sound. The prototypes function, but we've never tested this against actual alien technology." The bridge of the carrier Washington hummed with controlled tension. Admiral Patrick Stone stood at the command console, watching the tactical display as 300 red dots moved steadily toward Neptune. Behind those dots came humanity's extinction. "All ships report ready, sir," Commander Nina Ross said from her station. Her voice was calm, but Patrick could see her hands shaking slightly. She was 28 years old and had never seen real combat. "In about 6 hours that would change. Deploy the defense line," Patrick ordered. "Standard formation. Make them think we're fighting conventionally." 50 human warships moved into position around Neptune. It was Earth's entire deep space fleet, everything that could hold a gun and a shield. Against 300 Krell warships, it wasn't nearly enough. Captain Danny Hughes commanded the destroyer Valiant on the far left flank. He checked his weapon systems for the 10th time, knowing it wouldn't make a difference. Human railguns could punch through Krell shields eventually, but eventually wasn't fast enough when outnumbered 6-1. "All crews, this is Admiral Stone." Patrick's voice came through every ship's communication system. "I won't lie to you. The odds are not good. The Krell think we're easy prey. Primitive animals that stumbled into space before we were ready. They're probably right about the primitive part." Nervous laughter rippled through the fleet communications. "But they made one critical mistake," Patrick continued. "They forgot that primitive animals are the most dangerous when cornered. Our job today is to make them remember that lesson. Make them pay for every kilometer they advance. Make them earn this victory with blood and metal. And buy time for the people evacuating Mars and the inner colonies. Stone out. The Krell fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metallic locusts. Their ships were organic-looking, covered in chitinous armor that shifted and moved like living tissue. Each ship bristled with weapons that glowed an ugly green. The Krell commander broadcasted on all frequencies. His voice was a clicking, scraping sound that the translators struggled to process. Humans, your council has rejected you. Your technology is primitive. Your resistance is futile. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Tell him we decline his generous offer, Patrick said to Nina. She opened the communication channel. This is the human fleet. You want Earth? Come and take it. The Krell fleet opened fire. Space lit up with green energy beams that crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds. The first volley slammed into human shields, and Danny watched his shield display drop by 30% from a single hit. All ships return fire, Patrick commanded. Rotate shield frequencies. Standard evasion patterns. The human fleet responded with railgun fire and missile salvos. Tungsten rounds moving at a fraction of light speed hit Krell ships with tremendous force. Some damage got through, but the Krell shields adapted within seconds, becoming more resistant to kinetic impacts. They're learning our weapons, Nina reported. Shield effectiveness dropping with each volley. That's their doctrine, Patrick said grimly. Adaptive defense in overwhelming numbers. They've conquered 17 species using that strategy. A human cruiser exploded on the left flank, its shields overwhelmed by concentrated Krell fire. Then another. The Krell pressed forward, their formation tightening like a closing fist. Danny threw the Valiant into a steep dive, trying to draw fire away from the damaged ships behind him. His railguns fired continuously, but it was like throwing rocks at a tank. The Krell shields glowed brighter as they adapted until his weapons were barely scratching them. Sir, we can't hold this line, Nina said quietly to Patrick. We're losing ships too fast. Patrick knew she was right. In 30 minutes of fighting, they had lost 12 ships and barely damaged the enemy. The Krell were pushing through the defense line like it wasn't even there. All ships fighting retreat, Patrick ordered. Fall back to Mars, make them chase us through the debris fields. Use every asteroid, every piece of cover. Make them work for it. The human fleet withdrew, still firing as they retreated. The Krell followed, their confidence growing with every kilometer gained. Their commander broadcasted again, the clicking laughter clear even through the translator. You run like animals. This is what happens to primitives who reach beyond their capacity. The running battle continued for 8 hours. The human fleet fought from behind asteroids, used hit-and-run tactics, deployed mines and traps. They made the Krell pay for every meter, but the cost was devastating. By the time they reached Mars, the human fleet was down to 37 ships. Mars' orbit was chaos. Transport ships packed with refugees streamed away from the planet, heading for Earth and the inner system. The evacuation stations hung in space like skeletal giants, mostly empty now. Lieutenant Chris Webber commanded the defense station Armstrong, the last station still operational. His crew of 50 volunteers had stayed behind to cover the final transports. Through the viewport, he could see the last civilian ships jumping to faster-than-light travel. Lieutenant Krell fleet entering Mars orbit, his sensor officer reported. Multiple ships breaking formation. They're heading for the transports. Chris made the hardest decision of his life. Cut the transport ships loose. All power to weapons and shields. We're buying them time to escape. The Armstrong was never meant to fight warships. It was a civilian structure with military weapons bolted on as an afterthought. But it stood between the Krell and the fleeing civilians, so it fought. The station's cannons roared to life, targeting the nearest Krell ships. A few actually hit, more from luck than skill. The Krell noticed the annoyance and redirected 3 warships to deal with it. Sir, they're targeting us, the sensor officer said unnecessarily. Everyone could see the green glow building on the Krell ships. Keep firing, Chris ordered. Make them remember the Armstrong. The Krell fired. The station's shields lasted exactly 4 seconds before collapsing. The second volley tore through the hull, ripping compartments open to space. The third volley hit the reactor. Chris had time for one final transmission before everything went white. Earth doesn't surrender. Earth doesn't. The Armstrong exploded in a brief sun, taking one Krell ship with it through sheer proximity to the blast. On the Washington, Patrick watched the defense station die. 50 volunteers gone in seconds. He wanted to mourn, wanted to scream, wanted to do anything except keep retreating. But he had a fleet to command and a species to save. The Krell fleet reformed in Mars orbit, savoring their victory. Their commander broadcasted again, his clicking voice full of satisfaction. Humans, your Mars is fallen. Your Neptune is claimed. Soon Earth will be ours. But we are merciful. Surrender now and we will preserve some of you as slaves. Continue fighting and we will exterminate every last. The transmission cut off suddenly. Something had caught the Krell commander's attention. Sir, new contact, Nina said, her voice rising. Single ship emerging from behind Earth's moon. Transponder identifies it as Revenant. That's not one of our ships. Patrick felt something stir in his chest. He had been told about Project Catalyst in vague terms, told to buy time for something that might change everything. Was this it? One ship? The Krell commander apparently thought the same thing. His mocking broadcast resumed. Humans send one tiny ship against our fleet? Your foolishness knows no bounds. Observe how quickly your hope dies. 10 Krell warships broke formation, moving to intercept the Revenant. They probably planned to destroy it quickly and dramatically, a demonstration of Krell superiority. They fired a full volley at the small human ship. Enough energy to vaporize a cruiser. The weapons passed through empty space. The Revenant wasn't where their sensors said it should be. Sir, I'm getting impossible readings from that ship, Nina said, her voice confused. It's showing on sensors in 6 different locations simultaneously. That's not possible. Patrick allowed himself a small smile. Maybe not for everyone. The Revenant fired a single weapon. Reality seemed to ripple around one of the Krell warships. The alien vessel's shields flickered, showing patterns that hurt to look at. Then the ship simply exploded from the inside out, as if reality itself had rejected it. The Krell fleet hesitated, uncertainty rippling through their formations. Then 11 more Krell ships exploded simultaneously, killed by a weapon that didn't make sense. What? Nina whispered. What is that thing? More ships emerged from lunar orbit, 50 of them, all smaller than conventional fighters, all broadcasting the Phantom Drive's impossible sensor signature. They moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, making mockery of Krell targeting systems. Patrick opened a communication channel to the Revenant. Whoever you are, this is Admiral Stone. Welcome to the fight. Jake Morrison's voice came back, calm and professional. Admiral, this is Commander Morrison of Project Catalyst. Sorry, we're late. Shall we clean up your Krell problem? Be my guest, Commander. The Krell commander tried to regroup his fleet, but the damage was done. Confusion had replaced confidence. The aliens who had mocked humanity for primitive technology were now facing weapons they couldn't understand, couldn't track, and couldn't defend against. The human fleet that had been retreating in disorder suddenly stopped running. The conventional ships took up supporting positions as the Phantom-equipped vessels tore into the Krell. Jake Morrison felt the Revenant respond to his thoughts more than his hands. The Phantom Drive didn't work like conventional engines. It required intuition, a feeling for where the ship should be rather than calculating where it could be. Amy Torres had been right about that. 20 Krell ships converging on our position, Lisa Grant called out from the system station. Her fingers flew across the controls, managing the chaos mathematics that kept them invisible to normal sensors. They're trying to box us in. Let them try, Amy said from the tactical station. She was grinning like a wolf. Jake, phase left on my mark. 3, 2. Mark. Jake trusted his instincts and threw the ship sideways through a dimension that shouldn't exist. The Revenant disappeared from one location and appeared 3 kilometers away, behind the Krell formation that had been trying to surround them. Firing cascade, Amy announced. The weapon discharged with a sound like reality tearing. The energy didn't travel through space in any conventional sense. It simply appeared at the target, carrying mathematical contradictions that made the Krell shields try to solve impossible equations. 4 Krell warships died simultaneously as their shields consumed themselves trying to adapt to chaos. The explosions lit up the battlefield in green and white. Their formations breaking, Lisa observed. They don't know how to respond to weapons that don't follow their tactical models. Down in the Lunar Base Operations Center, Ryan Beck monitored all 50 Phantom fighters from his command station. Each ship showed up on his displays as a cloud of probability, rather than a single point. It made conventional coordination impossible, which was exactly the point. All fighters free engagement, Ryan commanded. Forget formation flying. Trust your instincts. Be unpredictable. The Phantom fighters scattered through the Krell fleet like mercury droplets, each pilot embracing the chaos of the new drive system. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the Krell could respond. Traditional space combat relied on predictable physics and calculated tactics. This was something else entirely. One pilot, a young woman named Kate Sanders, found herself surrounded by 3 Krell cruisers. Her conventional training said she should retreat, find cover, call for support. Instead, she did something crazy. She flew straight at the nearest cruiser, phased through its shields like they weren't there, fired the cascade weapon from inside the shield envelope, and phased back out before the ship exploded. "Did you just fly through their shields?" her wingman asked over the radio. "The Phantom drive doesn't care about energy barriers," Kate replied, checking her systems. "They're based on conventional physics." "We're not." The Krell commander watched his fleet dying and couldn't understand what was happening. His tactical displays showed human ships in multiple locations simultaneously. His weapons targeting systems kept locking onto Phantom echoes. His shields were failing against weapons that shouldn't exist. He broadcasted on all frequencies, his clicking voice now edged with something the translators identified as fear. "What are these weapons? This violates all known principles of warfare." "This is impossible." Jake intercepted the broadcast and responded, keeping his voice calm and professional. "Nothing's impossible. You just forgot to account for species that think differently than you do." From the Washington, Admiral Patrick Stone coordinated the conventional fleet to support the Phantom ships. His railguns and missiles couldn't kill Krell warships easily, but they could distract them, force them to divide their attention. Every second a Krell ship spent tracking conventional weapons was a second it wasn't defending against the cascade cannons. "Focus fire on damaged targets," Patrick ordered. "The Phantom ships crack them open, we finish them off. Commander Nina, get me a count on enemy casualties." Nina worked her console, her earlier fear replaced by fierce concentration. "Sir, we've destroyed 73 Krell ships in the past hour. That's almost a quarter of their fleet. They're trying to regroup near Mars, but we're not giving them space. Keep the pressure on. Don't let them think." The Krell fleet attempted to form a defensive sphere, an ancient formation designed to provide overlapping shield coverage. But the tactic assumed enemies would attack from outside the sphere. The Phantom ships just phased through the formation and attacked from within. A Krell battleship, one of the largest in their fleet, tried to target the Revenant with every weapon it had. The alien ship fired a spread pattern designed to cover every possible location where the human ship might appear. Jake felt the danger through his connection to the Phantom drive. "Lisa, can we phase during their firing sequence? The calculations are complicated. If we phase at the wrong moment, we could materialize inside their weapons fire. What are the odds? Maybe 60-40 in our favor? I'll take it." "Amy, prepare full cascade spread. We're going to phase right into their face and fire everything." "Now you're speaking my language," Amy said, arming every weapon. The Krell fired. Jake let his instincts guide him. Feeling for the moment when their weapons would be in the wrong place, he phased the Revenant forward, appearing less than a kilometer from the Krell battleship's bridge section. "Fire," Jake commanded. The Revenant discharged every cascade weapon simultaneously. The Krell battleship's shields tried to adapt, tried to calculate a defense, and failed catastrophically. The mathematical contradiction spread through the ship's systems like a virus. Shields failed, weapons overloaded, the reactor lost containment. The battleship broke apart slowly, pieces drifting in different directions as secondary explosions rippled through the hull. Jake phased the Revenant away before the debris could hit them. "That was their flagship," Lisa said, checking the tactical data. "Their command structure just collapsed." She was right. The Krell fleet lost cohesion as different captains tried to take command. Some ships attempted to continue the attack. Others began retreating. A few just held position, apparently paralyzed by indecision. The Phantom fighters exploited the confusion ruthlessly. They hit the aggressive ships first, then pursued the retreating ones. Within another hour, the Krell fleet had been reduced to less than 100 ships, scattered and demoralized. One group of Krell ships, about 30 vessels, tried to make a coordinated jump to faster-than-light travel. They were broadcasting on all frequencies, their clicking voices overlapping in what the translators struggled to interpret as panic. "Stop them," Ryan ordered. "If they escape, they'll report back to their homeworld." But Kate Sanders was already moving. Her fighter intercepted the fleeing ships and did something that should have been impossible. She fired a cascade burst at their forming jump field. The chaos mathematics interacted with the faster-than-light calculations in unexpected ways. The jump field collapsed and the feedback destroyed 5 Krell ships instantly. The rest scattered, their jump drives offline. How did you know that would work? Ryan asked over the communication channel. I didn't, Kate admitted. It seemed like the kind of thing chaos theory would mess with, so I tried it. Was I not supposed to do that? You're supposed to keep doing exactly what you're doing. All fighters, new tactic. Target their jump drives. Don't let any of them escape. The remaining Krell ships found themselves trapped. They couldn't fight effectively against the Phantom ships. They couldn't retreat. They couldn't even run. One by one, they died or surrendered. 3 hours after the Revenant had entered the battle, it was over. The Krell invasion fleet that had numbered 300 ships was reduced to 17 damaged vessels that had surrendered. The rest were debris drifting in Mars orbit. Jake sat in the Revenant's command chair, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried him through the battle was fading, leaving him shaking. Status report, he asked quietly. All Phantom ships accounted for, Lisa replied. We lost 3 fighters and 2 more are damaged but operational. Conventional fleet reports 21 ships remaining. Most damaged. Total human casualties estimated at 4,000. 4,000 dead. It was a terrible number. But against an invasion fleet 6 times their size, they had won. They had actually won. Admiral Patrick Stone's face appeared on their communication screen. The old admiral looked like he had aged 10 years in the past few hours. Commander Morrison, Dr. Grant, Captain Torres. I don't know what you built, but it saved humanity. Well done doesn't even begin to cover it. Thank you, sir, Jake replied. What are your orders? Round up the Krell survivors and secure them. Get our damaged ships to safety. And someone open a channel to the Galactic Council. I think they need to see what just happened. Across the galaxy on the orbital station above Kepler Prime, Chairman Vexthor stood in the Council observation chamber. He had been watching the battle through long-range sensors, not really paying attention. The destruction of humanity was tragic but inevitable, and he had more important matters to attend to. Then the sensor data had stopped making sense. Ships appearing in multiple locations. Shields failing without being overwhelmed, weapons that seemed to violate basic physics, and humans winning against overwhelming odds. Replay the battle data, Vexthor ordered. The technicians complied, showing the entire engagement from multiple angles. Vexthor watched in silence as the species he had dismissed as primitive decimated a Krell invasion force using technology that shouldn't exist. The council chamber looked exactly the same as before. The same circular design, the same elevated seats for 12 alien species, the same central floor where petitioners stood. But everything felt different this time. Jake Morrison walked onto that floor with Lisa Grant and Amy Torres flanking him. Behind them, projected on massive holographic displays, the Washington and 50 Phantom-equipped fighters hung in formation. Admiral Patrick Stone stood on the Washington's bridge, visible to everyone in the chamber. Chairman Vexthor sat in his elevated position, but he wasn't laughing anymore. None of the council members were. They watched the humans with expressions that the translators identified as wariness mixed with respect. Honored Council, Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 6 months ago, we came here as petitioners. We asked permission to join your galactic community. You denied us because our technology was primitive. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. On the displays behind him, footage from the battle played silently. Krell ships exploding, the Revenant phasing through shields, Phantom fighters making mockery of alien weapons. We're not here to petition anymore, Jake continued. We're here to inform you that humanity is now an active participant in galactic affairs. Whether you approve or not. The Krell representative, a different one than before, clicked his mandibles nervously. You destroyed an invasion fleet. You committed an act of war against the Krell Empire. The Krell Empire invaded our territory, killed our people, and attempted to exterminate our species, Admiral Patrick Stone said from his display. His voice was calm but carried an edge sharp enough to cut. We responded appropriately. If the Krell Empire wishes to discuss reparations for the damage they caused, we're willing to listen. Otherwise, they can consider this matter closed. The Krell representative started to respond, then seemed to think better of it and fell silent. The Valorian scientist who had mocked Lisa's fusion drive leaned forward. Your phantom drive and cascade weapons. They violate known principles of physics. How is this possible? Lisa stepped forward, activating her own display. Complex mathematical equations filled the air, flowing and shifting in patterns that made several aliens look uncomfortable. They don't violate physics, Lisa explained. They use physics you've never explored. Chaos mathematics, quantum uncertainty applied to macro-scale systems. Ordered civilizations naturally develop ordered technology. You've spent thousands of years optimizing efficiency, perfecting predictability, making everything more controlled. Greg Palmer appeared on one of the displays. Joining from Earth, humans develop differently. Our history is full of chaos, adaptation to unpredictable circumstances, survival through creative problem-solving rather than raw power. Our technology reflects our nature, but chaos is inefficient, the Valorian scientist protested. It wastes energy, produces unpredictable results, contradicts optimal design principles. Exactly, Amy said with a slight smile. Predictable systems are vulnerable to anyone who understands the pattern. You've optimized yourselves into a corner. Your shields follow algorithms we can disrupt. Your tactics follow patterns we can exploit. Your entire technological philosophy assumes enemies will play by the same rules you do. We don't play by those rules, Jake added, and that makes us very dangerous to you. Chairman Vexithor's crystalline body flickered through several colors before settling on one that indicated deep thought. You've made your point, Commander Morrison. The question is, what do you want? Revenge? Conquest? Territory? None of those, Jake replied. We want recognition as equals. We want trade agreements on fair terms. We want mutual defense pacts with species who share our values. We want a seat at the table when galactic decisions are made. And we want assurances that no species will attempt what the Krell did. You're demanding full council membership, the Saltian representative said, after being rejected. We're not demanding anything, Lisa corrected. We're explaining reality. Humanity is now a spacefaring civilization with military capabilities that rival or exceed most council species. You can accept that and work with us, or you can oppose it and see what happens. But you can't ignore us anymore. The council members looked at each other, having silent conversations through channels humans couldn't hear. Finally, Vexthor spoke again. The council must deliberate on this matter. It is unprecedented. Species typically join after centuries of observation and gradual integration. You forced the issue through military action. The Krell forced the issue, Patrick Stone interjected. We just survived it. If you want to blame someone for disrupting your orderly galactic civilization, blame them for attacking us. Admiral Stone makes a valid point, the Saltian representative said. The Krell invasion violated multiple galactic laws. The humans defended themselves using previously unknown technology, which is not illegal. Unusual, certainly. Concerning, perhaps, but not forbidden. May I speak? A new voice entered the conversation. It was a representative from the Talcrin, a species that looked like floating jellyfish made of light. They rarely spoke in council sessions. We have observed humanity for many years. They are violent, chaotic, unpredictable, but they are also creative, adaptive, and resilient. Perhaps our council has become too stable, too orderly. Perhaps we need species who think differently. Are you seriously suggesting we reward them for disrupting galactic peace? The Valorian scientist asked. Peace? Amy laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. You let the Krell build an invasion fleet and attack us without intervention. You sat back and watched, planning to do nothing while they exterminated our entire species. That's not peace. That's cowardice dressed up as neutrality. Several council members bristled at the accusation, but none could effectively argue against it. Vexthor raised his hand for silence. Very well. The council will vote on immediate membership status for humanity. This is highly irregular, but clearly, regular procedures are insufficient. The vote was recorded through each species' communication system. It took less than a minute. When Vexthor announced the results, his voice carried a mixture of emotions the translator couldn't quite identify. By a vote of 9 in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstention, humanity is granted full council membership with all associated rights and responsibilities. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humans. I suspect things are about to become much more interesting. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. They had done it. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, no longer dismissed as primitives. But the real work was just beginning. Over the next 3 months, human representatives established embassies on 12 worlds. Trade agreements were signed for materials Earth needed and technologies Earth could provide. Defense pacts were negotiated with species who valued independent thinking. The Phantom Drive technology remained classified, but rumors spread quickly. 36 species approached Earth with research proposals and technology exchange offers. Some wanted to learn chaos mathematics. Others wanted to develop countermeasures. A few just wanted to ensure humans remained friendly. Ryan Beck found himself leading a team that developed export versions of human technology. Nothing as advanced as the Phantom Drive, but useful tools that could be sold or traded. Earth's economy boomed as alien currencies and materials flowed in. Admiral Patrick Stone oversaw the construction of a new fleet. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, building vessels that combined human chaos theory with alien materials and power sources. The result was a fleet that made other species nervous. "Good," Patrick said when a Valorian ambassador complained about human military expansion. "Nervous is better than dismissive. Nervous means they're taking us seriously." Lisa Grant became the head of Earth's new science ministry, coordinating research across multiple fields. She worked with alien scientists who were initially skeptical, but gradually became fascinated by human approaches to problem solving. "You think sideways," one Saltian researcher told her during a joint project. "We see a problem and calculate the optimal solution. You see a problem and ask what would happen if we ignored the optimization and tried something crazy. And sometimes crazy works better than optimal." Lisa replied with a smile. Amy Torres trained a new generation of Phantom pilots. Young men and women from every nation on Earth competed for positions in the elite squadrons. The training was brutal, focused on developing intuition over calculation, creativity over procedure. "The Phantom Drive doesn't want pilots who follow rules," Amy told her students. "It wants pilots who understand when to break them. Any machine can follow an algorithm. We need humans who can feel what needs to happen." Jake Morrison found himself appointed as Earth's military liaison to the Council. It was a diplomatic position, but everyone understood the implicit message. Humanity was willing to cooperate, but they maintained the capability to defend themselves against any threat. 6 months after the battle at Mars, Jake stood on the observation deck of the new Earth station orbiting the moon. Lisa joined him carrying 2 cups of coffee, a human custom she was teaching to curious aliens. "The Krell want to establish formal relations," she said, handing him a cup. "Apparently getting their fleet destroyed taught them some humility." "What are we